All right. So for this one, we're going to be kind of going over a aggressive conflict style. We're going to approach it with a conflict analysis, and the best way that I always feel like I can show conflict is through aggression. I feel like it's just kind of very plain to see. You can kind of look at it, you kind of know what's happening, you know where the conflict is. Now, hockey is the best example of that because we can kind of see right immediately. We have a ref, we have a bunch of players that are high in competition, and it's going to cause a lot of emotion. So we'll start out by just seeing how the hockey players start the fight, get into it, and then we'll kind of break it down from there. So right here, we can already see that there's been some chirping, some nonverbal communication. Both of those are going to kind of play a factor in getting the emotions high. But this is when we're going to see kind of that body language by this player here. He's going to show them, "Hey, we're gonna start something here," and they do. All right, now obviously we're going to have a really high competitive conflict here with these players. There's not too much of a big goal here. Overall, the team doesn't really have a goal. They're just players. They're high. There's a lot of emotions going on, and they're just competing. And so, not really an end goal, just kind of a hey, here's what we're going to be doing. This is the player's own interest, not really an organization. But it's got to look about how we get that third party into here. All right. So after letting them go for a little bit, you see the refs, they're going to jump in. They're going to create this into a triangle conflict. They're going to be the mediator. They're going to be the ones going to break it up. They're doing a pretty decent job here. They're not really breaking them up, but they're getting in there. That's kind of their main job here. So looking at this on a micro level, we're going to have competitive players. We're going to have a high, strong conflict. It's going to be an aggressive conflict. It's going to be between two people, and then it's going to eventually come into a triangle conflict with the refs. And there's not really a huge amount of goals on the massive scale, but we can see that the player's interest and the player's intent is just to get into a fight to settle something on the ice right there. We're going to move into a macro level analysis, which is kind of looking at the broader lens. Now, to kind of understand this, we got to look at hockey as a whole. Hockey is known for being an aggressive sport. You're going to get a lot of players that are, this is not an uncommon thing. We're going to see fights. The refs are taught to let it go. But I want you to notice in the next little bit, kind of the fans' reactions here. Um, we got to understand that this is okay in hockey. So the fans are going to feed into the macro level of this conflict, which you'll see right here. Just like that. So you kind of see it's an accepted form. Not many people are really against this. I mean, it's kind of the joy of the sport, but the big goal of hockey is to entertain. And so when we allow people to see this type of conflict that we don't often see outside of sports and competitive, um, you're going to see that they are creating an entertaining position or an entertaining sport. They're also going to be creating a culture. They're going to be respecting that culture, and they're going to keep like the engagement that they want. People are going to keep coming back because they see things that they have not seen in other sports. This is a huge part of that. So the conflict in a whole boils down to two people. That's the micro level. Is we're seeing two people compete for their own interest. But on the macro goal, the reason this conflict is allowed and why there's a lot of it happening in the hockey league is because it keeps people coming back. There is a goal, there is a purpose for this conflict. Another thing that I wanted to point out was that in all sorts of altercations, it doesn't have to be an aggressive physical one, but you'll see it between two coaches that if they have a competitive nature, there's going to be conflict between them. They're going to counter, they're going to come back, and they're going to play against each other. That is a form of conflict. So, looking at this, we can see how, at a micro level, conflict can get very, very small and very minute detail. Even a small punch here is a factor to the conflict. on a bigger scale, we can kind of see that there are goals. There is a reason this conference is happening. There is going to be an outcome that either helps or breaks a goal. And we're just going to be able to look at that, and we're going to be able to analyze, like, kind of see why there's a purpose behind every conflict. And we can also kind of see how knowing the goals, knowing the outcomes, knowing the process, we can take a better outcome ourselves. So using hockey as a great kind of view into the conflict, we can really start to see why this is a necessary skill, why we should all know how to analyze a conflict for ourselves, for other people, and understand the world, for the communication world coming